So I was commissioned to make a walking or a hiking stick, and here it is, more or less finished. I could go on. I mean, there's lots of embellishments, but again, like I said, it was commissioned, so there was unfortunately a price point attached to it. Otherwise, I could have just gone on and on and on and on to embellish the walking stick, right? Uh Now I'm going to break this down from top to bottom. And first off, if you notice, I wedged a compass in here, right? And the compass, if you lay it flat, if you lay it on the ground or if you lay it flat, obviously it's going to point north, and it is actually being accurate right now. It's a hiking stick, so why not put a compass on here, right? Uh Now the feathers are a nice little embellishment, I think. And these are buckskin tongs here, that I tanned in a hole that I drilled through. Now this hole has use. Almost everything on here has a use. That's kind of the point. Um, Again, you want to know wind direction. So obviously, if you're looking at your compass and the feathers are blowing a particular way, you know your wind direction. Um, this is a lanyard made of buckskin. And I'm filming this one-handed, but you could kind of scoot this up so that you can slide your hand in and then cinch it down. And when you're walking about, you don't have to drop your stick. It's easy to forget your stick or drop your stick. Leave it someplace and then you step on it thinking it's another stick and you break your stick. So you always have your stick ready for you, right? Now this is attached just via a loop here. Again, it's very easy to undo this, right? All you have to do is really wet it and cinch it. But around this is noisemaker and a carabiner, which is not very primitive, but neither are the bells. However, I have a rattle that I made many, many years ago that is made of deer hooves, and I did put some bells in there, and it's made of a deer bone, and embellished it with some turkey feathers. But you could do this again primitively. It doesn't have to be metal bells, okay? But this is just a noisemaker, and again, depending on where you're hiking at. Again, I hike or I walk around the cities and I'm usually hunting for mushrooms or I'm in the bush or something like that. To where joggers and bicyclists in my state that I live in, there's a lot of scary people, meaning they're easily scared. I can walk through and I can make a jingling sound. So people know I'm coming. Now, I've made it so that you can just simply unattach this or even unattach this and still have the lanyard attached so that you're not, you're not, you can be stealth if you want to be stealthy, right? But I think that's kind of a big deal, especially if you're urban hiking or hiking on a trail where there's lots of people or there's bears or other critters that could think of you as a threat. Now the next piece is, and then all I have to do is the groove here that I made here. I can just cinch this. Again, you can just wet this up. I'm filming this one-handed. I'll make it right in a minute. But I'm filming this one-handed, and it just cinches on. And I can add as many bells or carabiners as I want. Now, the handle is a piece of leather, vegetan cowhide that is strapped together with buckskin. And the handle is just kind of, I don't know, it's a cool factor. It's shiny because I did use some atomized wax to make it look shiny and stuff like that. But it's just the extra grip. It doesn't really have any use other than that. You could make it useful. I mean, you could dismantle this and use the cordage of the buckskin. Because all I did was just do some double overhand knots. These knots are actually easy to get undone, but they're if you work at it, but they're not going to come undone by themselves. So if you need a place to lay to make a fire, you can, or some coals or something like that, you can, I don't know, just take this piece of leather strap off and lay it down, and now you have some cover. But it just adds a bit, in my opinion, to the cool factor. I don't know. Maybe I'm tripping. I don't know. All right, so we can move on to the cordage. All right, this is nothing but 550 cord that I've wrapped. And the 550 cord has little strands in it. That's what the white part is. That may be useful later. And I think I gave this individual almost like 30 feet, 40 feet, including this piece here, of cordage to dismantle from their shaft or add it back, I don't know, to their staff. And it's also a grip, to make things easier, when you're gripping. But this cordage, if you need to make a tarp, if you need to make a fire, and other accoutrements, right? Now, when we get to the bottom here, which is the kind of the rubber stopper. Now the rubber stopper, I kind of, I don't know. I want hiking. I know that there's sticks that have actual like points to them, and I would like to revisit this stick sometime and fix it so that you can have interchangeable pieces that you screw on where there's actual point. But I'm adding the rubber stopper here so that the stick itself, which is elm, a piece of elm I had in my garage for a few years, so it's quite seasoned, doesn't split, as you're walking through on rocky surfaces or concrete asphalt. Now, if you put a pointy end on it, like a spike, you will dull. I mean, not that it would really matter, I guess, but I'm also thinking as part of something that is going to be a weapon as well, right? Your staff, your walking stick is a tool. And there's as many as I look at this, your staff, your hiking stick, there's many accoutrements that I could add to this that would make it really, really formidable, as just, a walking stick. You can make traps off of this. As a matter of fact, that's what I'm about to show you now. So this is the reason why this hole is here. Okay, so I'm going to need to shape this stave. It's not a staff quite yet. It's kind of got a bit of a bend in it. Okay, and it's winter time. Otherwise, I'd just let it sit in the lake somewhere for a couple hours. Because ultimately what I want to do is, what I'm going to do is I'm going to soak this for a few hours. Let it get nice and wet. It's quite dry. It's been seasoned in my garage for probably about 2 years now, I think. So it's completely dry. Good piece of wood. Good piece of elm. I got to reconstitute it a bit so that I can put it over an open fire without it actually burning. And then so it'll be moist, so there'll be some steam in there to where I can find a place to kind of pry and unset the bend that has actually occurred in it while it was sitting in my garage. So I don't have a trough big enough, and I can't go to the lake because the lake's frozen over. It's January 2025. So I'm gonna run the tub for a little bit. Just some cold water. Let this soak in here for a few hours. I probably won't do it overnight. I don't want to oversaturate it, but I'll probably set an alarm. It's pretty late now. I'll set an alarm to get up and then drain the water and then let it kind of sit. So this is the beginning of the journey of creating a cool hiking stick. Okay, so it's gonna be just sitting here with a weight on it because it obviously floats in a tub full of cold water. If I had a trough, like a long trough for like bow building, either, out of steel or something like that, or primitively it'd be a wooden log that you'd cut in half and burn out, dig out to make a big long trough to soak your raw materials in, and you could even heat it up with hot rocks to get it to boil to make the water hot, and that'll make your wood supple again. But again, I'm going to be applying heat. I just want this stave to soak up some water so I don't burn it during the process. Because if I do, then I have a bunch of sanding to do, and I want to avoid that because I don't have another staff that's ready to go like this. And this is a commissioned piece of work, so I only get one shot at straightening it. So I'm gonna try to heat this up. It's really cold outside, but thank goodness I was able to get the fire started. I didn't film much, just because it's cold. Of course, the day that I get to do this, and this is a commission order, it actually goes back to being cold. The past few days was actually quite warm. I have a V over there by my tripod that I can take this long stave and bend it. Hopefully I can get my camera set up and film that part. If not, that's what I'm using is natural V formation in that tree over there, where I can use leverage to bend and hold it straight. Hold it straight. So I'm taking the stave that has been soaking in the water. Like I said, the outside you're gonna see a little bit of scorching, and that's fine. But I didn't want it to be completely dry for this bending process. And again, I'm at a little park here that has these huge fire pits. I'd rather do this at home, but it happens when you rent from people. Anyways, I got to do this carefully and systematically because I don't want to burn this, nor do I want to break it. So instead of the tree, which is actually too far away, I'm going to make use of the park's benches here. So now I quickly take it from the fire, which is a few feet away, and I want to hold this in place and bend it back against itself and hold it until it cools down. And this works. It's a cold day. As long as I got a hot fire, this process shouldn't take too long. But the circumstances and the tools has got to be just right. So again, it's slowly straighten out. I got to get a little bit more on the bend itself here. Yeah, the wind blows and it kind of goes in a big circle. I've noticed, right? So it'll calm down and then the wind will come back. And I haven't set a clock to it, but I'm sure there's a timing to it, right? It starts gradually, but it's coming back, and then it's nice and calm.
Nonetheless, on the stave, you can kind of see the bend is kind of slowly working it out. I have to figure out where the parts I have to work on and kind of slowly work up and down the stave here. So I think overall we kind of got this more or less straight compared to the bend that was in here before. So again, you use oil or water to soften your wood, especially if it's seasoned or dried, and you just need heat, a little bit of patience, and then I can sand or buff or scrape off and shape and file if I need to make it even straighter. Alright, so I am going to be shaping the top of our now straightened staff here. I'm going to start shaping and sanding. And my intention is to trick this out by putting a compass here that I had in this kind of naturally, not semi-naturally occurring divot here. We'll see how that goes out. We'll have to carve it out, kind of drill it out. But I was thinking of putting it down more in the shaft. I'm not going to do that because this is fairly big. It's bigger than I thought because I knew I had it packed away somewhere. I don't want to create a weak point in the body of the shaft. So I'd rather have it more up towards the top so that the user will have to actually, in order to use this, just like it's pointing north now, it'll have to lay down. You have to lay it down or hold it pretty straight to get a general idea of where north is or south or east or west is going to be at. So I'm using my sanding tools and rasping tools and everything to start shaping. The other thing is that I had to do some additional straightening and shaping today. Went out, it was kind of snowy and cold, but I was able to get it a little bit more straight. Now these colorations here, this is actually the inner bark of elm. And I've made a bow from elm, and I forgot working it. This is going to take a lot of work, and I don't want to whittle this down. I don't want to put any Mars in it. And sanding will just take forever to get it to the white part here. But it also adds some character, because I remember the back of a bow that I made actually had some character, because the layer right underneath this inner bark is actually very good for medicinal purposes when it's fresh, throat lozenges and things like that, but also very good for lashings and making cordage. But there's kind of like grooves in the white wood of the elm, so it's hard to get this inner bark out. So it's best to peel the bark off completely when the elm is cut. Especially if it's cut in the spring or in the summer when the sap is flowing, it's really easy to slip the bark off, and then you don't have so much work later. But once this is all sanded and stained, it'll look pretty nice. It'll have a nice rustic look to it. So that's the next steps. Okay, for the staff that I'm working on, I'm gonna embed a compass that I think would be kind of neat to have for hiking and whatnot. Just kind of a value add here. And again, I got this compass at, I don't know, some sporting goods store. Any sporting goods store will have it, or obviously you can order them online. There's ways to make your own natural compass. There's ways to do, if you have adequate sunlight, there's different ways to determine navigation via the shadow, the stick and rock method, which I may show some other time. Anyways, I'm going to add this to the little staff here that I'm working on, and we'll see how it turns out. Okay, so I'm sanding down the stave here, and this is what I'm talking about, this inner bark here that's kind of glued on here and it's stuck, right? And, I could shave and shave and shave. I don't want to, I gotta pick my battles with this, right? But what I'm going to do is I'm going to fit the end with this rubber cane cap. I had a larger one, but it's too big, and this looks like it might be too small, at least the initial opening. But I've taken another stick, and I've measured the depth. And the black mark here is where the depth is, right? So I'm just going to mark that off on the end here about the same. And then I'm going to be basically make a nipple that will slide into the end here. And I will epoxy that. Now, in a perfect world, and maybe another iteration of this, I would like to be able to affix, cut right about here and have it where you can screw onto another end that actually has a spiky end to it, like a metal spike. Both for, different terrain and, in case you need to defend yourself on the trail. So I've experimented with that before, but we'll see. But my main objective for this stick now is just to get this end on here. Okay, so here's the mark of where the rubber tip is going to fit into. It's just shy of the bottom because I want to be able to actually have this kind of stretch on. And when I cut this or shave this, I want this to taper a bit so it actually spreads the top of the cap, and then also it'll be a good solid grip with the epoxy that I'm going to use. So that's kind of how I'm going to shape this. I'm filming this one-handed. Just got a lot going on. Didn't want to set up my tripod and all that. So, and then I'm trying to keep stuff, as you can see, in the background, kind of in a nice contained area, so it's easier to vacuum up later. So, this is the next step. All right, so I've taken a serrated tip of my Spyderco here to create a groove, so I can start carving away. And if I had this in a vice grip, and another project that I'm working on, which is a instrument from Brazil, Afro-Brazilian berimbau, you need to make a nipple. So I'm doing the same thing, but I'm going a little bit as I can, because I don't want to make it too small. I mean, there's ways around it if I do, but I want this to be a nice fit the first time around. Okay, so this is the start of the nipple here, and it almost fits, but what I have yet to do is I have yet to kind of shave and taper this. Now, I started with my serrated edge, and then I'm going to start shaving with my fillet edge blade. So that's just to cut the groove in. Now, my little stump here helped me out because I was able to stand on this. Now, this stick is a little taller than me because the person I'm making this for is taller. So I'm sizing it for this individual. And so I actually had to elevate myself to be able to safely take this straight edge and use a mallet and tap it down to the cut line here, okay? Otherwise, the safer way to do that would have been to put it in a vise. I didn't want to set that up. Or just continue to whittle away, which would have taken up a bit of time to even get this far. So it was just easier to stand on something safely and then take a mallet and my straight edge and just tap down to the cut line. And then if I wanted to make this even narrower, I would just take my serrated blade and go more around and just kind of chisel down, chisel down, chisel down. So that's how I would tackle this if I wanted it smaller. But now I just want to shave this so it becomes more of a wedge, so that we can wedge it onto the rubber tip. So I'm taking my rasp here to roughen up and also shape this tip to a narrow tip. And there's a bit of a lip here, but I don't think that's going to be too much of a bother. I could sand that down if I wanted to. But the beautiful thing about that is it's creating a rough surface for when I add the epoxy. It's going to create more surface area to grip onto the rubber tip. So let's give this a try. I'm going to try this one-handed. We'll see if this will fit. And it's a fit. And so I could take my mallet and kind of pound this on here, and it's a good solid fit. Okay, see that? so I could pound this down or sand more on the bottom end, and it's a good fit. So that worked out. That's on here for kind of modern terrain, rocky terrain. Again, woodland, muddy terrain. It would probably be better to have like a spiky end. Again, there's a way to make a fixture on this. I'd have to find another piece of elm or stick of roughly the same diameter, get the right pieces, drill the holes, screw the pieces in so it can be a screwable piece, and then that end has a spike on the end of it, so that it can kind of grip into the earth a bit better versus if you're on rock. But this is both good for pretty much most terrain, but it'll slip slide on some other terrains, and then also it won't be as efficient as a weapon if it's needed. Side note: I was fishing one day, and I had a bunch of my catch in the water on a stringer, and I happened to catch some movement out of the corner of my eye while I was fishing off of a dock, and here comes a pretty decent sized common snapping turtles. Now, snapping turtles are dangerous critters. I enjoy them. I think they're really cool little dinosaurs, but they feed off of carrion, so they were after the kind of the dead and the dying fish, and I didn't have a stick to ward it off or even a spike to get it to harvest it, because the tail's got good some meat. The shell could have been useful. So that was kind of my lesson learned, is like, I should have had a stick on me even while I was fishing. But anyways, maybe I will be able to modify this for this particular client later on. But for now, the main objective has been met. We were able to fit his rubber stopper on. I just gotta sand some stuff down, make some stuff smooth, and then we'll glue on our piece. All right, so here's the compass and the outline that I've traced, that I'm going to basically have to dig out. And there's many ways I could attack this. I may cheat and use my Dremel tool just for speed. If this was kind of a larger object, I'd probably burn it out with a piece of charcoal and blow on it and scrape it and add more charcoal and blow and scrape until it was big enough and deep enough. But I'm gonna try with a blade. If not, I'll just pull out my Dremel tool. Just like I said, this is a commission project, so I don't have a lot of time to spend with this. All right, well, thank goodness I was able to find this tool, because I would have to probably burn this out, and this barely fits in here. Yeah, I really don't. I'm gonna have to go much deeper, and then this piece here, this little seat here, I gotta use my little carving tool and get that deep. But slow and steady wins the race. All right, so this is what we have so far. And again, this isn't an exact fit. I did not want to set it up like that and make a smaller hole, because then it would just kind of stick out too far. This is more secure to me, meaning I could take advantage of this, how this little seat here, and just drill a hole and set it in there. But the problem is it could hook on to things. So I wanted to be as kind of close to the surface of the shaft as possible, running into this lip being a problem. So, and I just don't have the tools. Don't have the tools to get in there elegantly. So what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to fudge it. And I've got some of the shavings from sanding, and I'm going to mix some epoxy with this, smear it in here, and I'm going to set this in here so it's set. And I should be able to sand and shape around it, and just be careful not to scratch or buff the plastic that the compass is encased in. So just don't have the right tools at the moment. And anyways, we'll sally forth. All right, so I was able to patch some things in here, mixing some of the adhesive with some of the shavings, sawdust in here, which will make it kind of easier to sand. I could probably shape it more if I have some more sawdust in here. I just don't have the right kind of adhesive, so I'm gonna leave it where it is at. I still got some decorations to do, some other things to do to it, but for the most part, it actually kind of it turned out okay. I think it'll be serviceable, and it is stuck in there. It's not coming out, so have to kind of dig it out if that would be if it'd be possible. So I'm just putting a rubber band on it, let it sit overnight, and then we'll try to finish this up. All right, and what do you know? Just when I thought I was kind of lost, I actually had some wood filler around. And it's sandable, paintable, dry as hard. Again, it's not organic, and my whittling skills aren't that up to par, and I didn't have the right tools and stuff like that. But I think what I'm able to do is kind of shape this, and with this putty, it'll let it dry overnight. It's glued in there, and then I can sand around, and then I'm going to stain this when it's all done, and it'll look kind of how I wanted it to look, and it'll function just great. So, what do you know? This saved the day. Because it was looking kind of ratty. I'm a bit of a perfectionist that way sometimes. Okay, so I added a little walnut stain. No need to really film that. Just used a towel and a tarp and just added some stain. It actually turned out pretty good. The portions here, this putty stained okay. Probably give it one more coat before it's done. But yeah. So I'm gonna make a hand grip out of leather. Some vegetable tanned cowhide that I have. It's just, I mean, this could be quite useful. I don't want to put any. It's just an embellishment. It'd be useful for a grip. It'll be useful because the idea is that this will be laced up around the handle of the staff, and that this will be, you can unlace this, and if you needed a dry patch to make a fire or something like that, you could. Mostly it's just an embellishment. I don't want to put anything on here that's not going to be unuseful, but I'm going to go the extra step for this individual and go ahead and just to make it look cool, and maybe some embellishments can be added later. So essentially I put grommets in here, and I'm kind of eyeballing this for the most part, and these will be laced up around the staff as a grip. So I've kind of wet the leather. I'm going to get my anvils and rivets and hammer these in, and then it'll be easier way to kind of lace up the grip onto the shaft, the stave. So here's what we have so far, and this would be the grip. And in many instances, we could call this pretty much done. This is, about as far as it's going to go. But I'm going to really kind of trick this out. I want some noisemakers. I want to drill a hole in there to make an Ojibwe bird trap. But I used some real buckskin that I tanned some years ago to do the lacings for the veggie tan, put some grommets. Again, this is purely decorative. I could have completely stamped or decorated the leather, painted it, that whole thing. I just didn't go that far this time around. Here we have the compass set in there. We've got a little bit more to go. I'm going to cut a groove in here for noisemakers and some decorative embellishments. So on the left here, this is my walking stick, which is a cottonwood shaft that has, some cordage attached to it, and again, rubber stopper. This is one I made for my daughter. Same concept. And again, it was for her height at her age. Noisemaker there. And rubber stopper would be at the end here. Again, some cordage attached. So the concept for me is not
strange, right? What I'm adding, right? It's kind of a consistent concept that I'm using. Now, this lanyard is actually dog bane cordage. This lanyard is actually buckskin cordage. All right, so this is deer hide, and this is actually plant fibers. Concept is the same. The only difference is, I added, some feather embellishments. I could make this pretty too. Now, what I do have is on this, and I've done a video on this, is making what's called an Ojibwe or Anishinaabe bird trap, which is a stave that kind of sits in here like that. Okay. Kind of lightly. And there's more to it. I did a whole video on it. I'll post it below. I'm not going to go into it. And from a survival standpoint, this, you post up, you get to your hiking site or your camp for the night or the day or the week or whatever. And you just set your walking stick up, and maybe you put some bait on the top, or you put some bait here. So a larger bird, blue jay, crow, whatever, lights on this. And there's a stone, or you can make a spring trap because you have cordage on the other end here. And it'll cause this to trigger again. So that's really not kind of, but that's really what this hole is for. All you'd have to do, this is just an overhand knot, easy to undo. You would have to do it, and then you just stick any sort of stick in. And, again, I'm kind of doing this one-handed, I don't know. And, you set your trap like so. So that's kind of why the hole is there. So there's kind of multi-tricks within this stick. So it's just, that's why as boys grow up and we find a cool stick and we're just like, yeah, it's a stick. And our minds go all kinds of places, right? And again, in comparison to some of my walking sticks, there's ones that I made for my daughter. It's I don't know. I could just go on and on and on and on. Anyways, I'm not going to ramble, but this is what we're going to build. This is what I've built. Commission based. I was paid to do this, so hopefully the individual enjoys this or it works out for them. Much more embellishments I could do with this sort of thing. I don't know. Sky's the limit, so to speak.